How do you know whether your relationship is truly secure or whether you're simply assuming it is? That's an uncomfortable question. And the answer isn't hidden in one suspicious text, one late night, or one change in mood. Relationships are complicated, and a single unusual behavior can have dozens of innocent explanations. What deserves attention is a pattern of unexplained change. When someone's behavior, availability, communication, and boundaries suddenly shift, the change itself can tell you something important, even before you know the reason behind it. Take intimacy, for example. Every relationship has fluctuations. Some days you're exhausted, other days you're stressed, distracted, sick, or simply not interested. A healthy relationship makes room for those ordinary changes. So if your partner suddenly behaves very differently from her established pattern, don't immediately label it as cheating. Instead, ask yourself, what changed and when did it change? Maybe she's suddenly far more eager for physical affection than she normally is, or perhaps the opposite has happened. She has become noticeably distant. Either way, the important clue isn't whether she says yes or no on a particular night. It's whether her behavior has become inconsistent with the way she normally relates to you. And there's another situation that can reveal a lot. What happens when you're away? If you're leaving town for work or taking a trip, does she seem genuinely disappointed that you're going to be gone? Does she miss your presence? Or does she appear unusually relieved, energized, or eager for you to leave? Again, none of these reactions proves anything. Some people genuinely enjoy having time alone. Some are naturally independent. Others may simply be happy that their partner is getting a break. The clue is the broader pattern. If she suddenly becomes unusually interested in your travel plans, encourages you to stay away longer, or seems far more enthusiastic about your absence than your return, it's worth noticing, not because it proves betrayal, but because it may signal that something about the relationship has changed. And then there's a third area that people often misunderstand: appearance and validation. A new haircut, different clothes, or more attention to makeup doesn't automatically mean anything suspicious. People change their style for countless reasons. But if her appearance changes dramatically at the same time that she stops caring about your opinion, becomes unusually secretive about where she's going, and starts seeking attention in places where she previously didn't, the combination is more meaningful than any individual behavior, because the real question isn't, why is she dressing differently? It's, why does the entire pattern around her behavior feel different? And there's one place where changes in that pattern can become especially obvious: the device she carries everywhere, her phone. And this is where things can become especially easy to misread. A phone is supposed to be private. Having a password, wanting personal space, or keeping certain conversations to yourself isn't automatically evidence of betrayal. The important question is whether the level of secrecy has suddenly changed. Maybe she used to leave her phone on the table without thinking about it, but now it stays in her hand constantly. Maybe notifications that were once visible are suddenly hidden. Perhaps she turns the screen away whenever you enter the room, becomes tense when you pick up the device, or abruptly closes an app. None of those behaviors proves that another person exists, but a sudden transformation in digital behavior, especially when it appears alongside other unexplained changes, deserves an honest conversation. And pay attention to something even more important than the phone itself: how she responds when you bring up the change. A healthy partner may say, "I've been more private lately because I've needed some personal space," and explain why. That doesn't necessarily mean you'll agree, but there is room for a conversation. A relationship becomes more concerning when every reasonable question is immediately turned against you, when explanations constantly change, or when you're made to feel irrational simply for noticing that something is different. Still, there's a line you shouldn't cross. Don't secretly install tracking software. Don't hack accounts. Don't obsessively search through private conversations looking for something that might not exist. Suspicion can become destructive when it turns into surveillance. Instead, step back and look at the whole pattern. Has communication changed? Has affection changed? Has her availability changed? Has she become unusually protective of her phone? Has she started behaving differently around certain people or situations? And most importantly, have you actually talked about what you're noticing? Because the goal isn't to become a detective in your own relationship. The goal is to understand whether the relationship still has the honesty, consistency, and mutual trust you believe it has. One unusual behavior can mean almost nothing. Several major changes happening together may deserve attention. And sometimes the biggest warning sign isn't what you discover on a phone or what you notice when she's away. It's the growing feeling that the person you're talking to and the person you're experiencing are no longer matching. That's when it's time to stop guessing, stop building stories in your head, and have the conversation you've been avoiding. Because real trust isn't blind. It's built on honesty, consistency, and the ability to talk openly when something no longer feels right. If you found this breakdown useful, like the video and subscribe for more relationship psychology, communication, and behavioral insights. And tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed a sudden change in a partner's behavior that made you question what was really going on? Remember, one sign doesn't prove anything. Patterns matter more than isolated moments.